I'm either a librarian or I sprung a leak. Thank you all for being attentive and good stewards of our collective time. We have many important items. The next one is obviously a significant and historic item as well as we launch on this new effort for more active transportation in California. I think we all share a sense of excitement about this, and we want to make sure to give it the time that it deserves and needs. As commissioners return to the podium and people in the hall return, I'm going to turn it over to Laurel Jansen on our team with the preface of just how proud and pleased I am as chair of the leadership of Laurel Jansen and the engagement of our entire team and the work of our Caltrans partners on this first round of allocations of roughly $228 million. I would just mention again to everyone, this is a competitive project. I think competition is good. It makes us sharper. There were 771 applicants, well over $1 billion in applications. We collectively had to make the tough decision to bring that down to the $228 million available. Less than 25% of what was requested. That means more than 75% are not happy with the decision. I, however, am very happy with the performance of our team as we go through this and make our decisions today, and then also lessons learned for the next round as we continue to do this. And I think there's lessons learned for all of us in the regions of how to make sure great projects are represented in a strong way in grant applications as well as other steps in the process as well. With that, Laurel Jansen.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Commissioners, this is an action item to adopt the statewide and small urban and rural components of the 2014 Active Transportation Program. Staff recommendations were made available to the Commission, Caltrans, and regional agencies and local agencies via email on Friday, August 8th, and posted on the Commission's website. Since those recommendations were distributed, staff identified changes and corrections. These are outlined in the replacement book item and attachments. These were released on August 15th, and you have those in your packet now. In addition, you've got some letters have been received. Some were included with the book item, and then some were included later. Legislation creating the Active Transportation Program was signed by the Governor on September 26, 2013. The Commission adopted program guidelines for the 2014 ATP on March 20, 2014, and required receipt of project applications on or before May 21, 2014. This is the first year for this new program. We're covering a 2-year period, 2014-15 and 2015-16. We are using 3 years' worth of money for those 2 years. There's a total of $368.079 million in programming capacity available, with $220.848 million available for the statewide and small urban and rural components. The Commission formed a multidisciplinary advisory group to assist in evaluating project applications. The advisory group consisted of stakeholder volunteers with expert in bicycling and pedestrian transportation, including safe routes to school projects and projects benefiting disadvantaged communities. Volunteers were assigned to one of 8 teams to provide, as best we could, geographical representation by large MPOs, RTPAs, small urban and rural areas, and non-governmental agencies. Consistent with the program guidelines, responsibility for project eligibility review, application evaluation, scoring, and ranking was delegated to Caltrans. Caltrans representatives facilitated the teams and the evaluation process, making sure that all applications were scored. On July 31st, 2014, Caltrans submitted recommendations to the Commission for programming of the statewide and small urban and rural program components. These recommendations were based on a compilation of scoring data reported to Caltrans by advisory group members and Caltrans staff evaluators. The attached Caltrans recommendations were consulted by Commission staff when preparing Commission's staff recommendations. Caltrans based their recommendations on the average of the scores received. They did not adjust for any missing scores or scores falling significantly outside the range of other scores for the same project. For example, a project may have had a 24, a 78, and an 80. So we looked at that. Commission staff evaluated each project application where a score was missing or significantly above or below the other scores. In these instances, Commission staff reviewed the individual project application to validate the reasonableness of the final average. The overall score is based on an average, basically, of the scores that were determined to be reasonable. Staff recommendations also differ from Caltrans because we recommended to fully program the statutory minimum for Safe Routes to School non-infrastructure projects in the statewide component. This required dropping some higher scoring projects in the statewide component to fund some lower scoring non-infrastructure projects. We did go above the minimum. We had a large project at the end of that long list of Safe Routes to School non-infrastructure. If we left it out, we would be under. We put it in, it put us over. The staff recommendations include 126 projects in the statewide component, and that includes the Technical Assistance Resource Center, and 22 projects in the small urban and rural component. These recommendations meet the fund estimate limits through 2015-16. Therefore, if the Commission were to ask to add a project, another project must be deleted to make room. Many projects not recommended for the statewide program remain eligible for the MPO component, which will be coming later. The MPOs will be bringing their program recommendations forward, and we will be bringing them at the November meeting for adoption. I would like to thank all the volunteer members of the advisory group for the hours they devoted to evaluating these 771 applications. These people put in a lot of time on their own. They took vacation from work to do this. It was a very big deal. Also, I want to thank Caltrans staff for providing the training workshops to potential applicants. They distributed all of these applications to the evaluators and facilitated the evaluation process. In particular, April Nitsos and her staff, and in the Division of Local Assistance. In addition, I think there were a lot of Caltrans staff who volunteered from outside that area. In addition, Commission staff stepped up and participated in reviewing every application in order to validate scores. Mitch Weiss, Carrie Porvahidi, Juan Guzman, Lori Waters, Teresa Favela, Laura Pennebaker, and of course David Junko. We wouldn't have been able to get this done at all without David, so we have to give him special thanks. After adoption this afternoon, there may be the need for more technical changes and corrections. As we've done with other programs, the proposed adoption resolution includes a clause that would authorize staff, in consultation with Caltrans and local and regional agencies, to make further technical changes, with any and all substantive changes brought back to the Commission for approval. With this, staff recommends your adoption of the statewide and small urban and rural components of the 2014 Active Transportation Program.
Laurel, thank you for the staff report. Before we go to the numerous cards that we've received so far, I want to make sure that there aren't Commission questions of Laurel and staff. Seeing none, let's go right in. I'm going to, again, encourage you 2 minutes or less, and we'll go with the first three names if we can queue up to save time. Vivian Romero and Francesca Tucker Schuyler are together, City of Montebello Council and City Manager. And then second, Mark Watts. And third, Carl Hasty. Fourth, if you want to be ready, is Stephen Patchen. Again, we won't start until you start. And we're honored, Council Member, that you have flown all the way up to be with us today. Thank you for that. Again, Vivian Romero and Francesca Tucker Schuyler.
Good afternoon, Honorable Chair, Commissioners, Executive Director, and staff. I'm Councilwoman Romero and City of Montebello, here today with our City Manager, Francesca Schuyler, and our Public Works Director, Danilo Batson. Before I address the ATP item, I want to first thank Caltrans Director Malcolm Doherty once again for all his assistance with various issues that Caltrans has been able to address in our city. There's been a noticeable difference made by Caltrans, and on behalf of the citizens of Montebello, we appreciate you and your staff for all of your efforts. So I want to get that out of the way first. We came here to thank staff and the commissioners, thinking that we were part of the staff recommended list. Unfortunately, we were not one of the ATP grant applications recipients. And we just learned that when we got here. Learning this, we still want to thank staff and the commissioners for their consideration. However, since we flew from LA to come here today, we would not be doing our jobs if we didn't ask the commissioners to please reconsider Montebello Boulevard as one of the ATP projects being approved today. There's a reason why Montebello submitted an application for the ATP grant for Montebello Boulevard, and I'd like to take a second to explain. Montebello is a disadvantaged urban city located about 8 miles from downtown Los Angeles with a population of 65,000 people, surrounded by 4 freeways, the 5, the 60, the 710, and the 605. Montebello is a regional area with tremendous transportation needs, especially with active transportation. Montebello Boulevard is a major regional thoroughfare that connects many employment centers, such as Costco, Kaiser, AMC Theaters, Sears, Petco, and connects to a large regional shopping mall. Residents, bicyclists, and motorists use Montebello Boulevard to travel to surrounding communities in LA and San Gabriel Valley.
Time? Yeah.
I'm at time already? Okay. I just want to close by saying there's no bike lanes for active transportation there, and as part of our application, we submitted letters of support to Gateway Cities, San Gabriel Valley, COG, and Montebello Bicycle Coalition. Basically, we just wanted to know if you could please make a difference by approving Montebello as one of the ATP recipients today.
Councilmember, we respect greatly that you and your team have flown up. We want to thank you for that. I'm going to make a comment just at the outset, too. 2 items that we hope are positive news. One, I know our staff is dedicated to working with everyone who either in this round was not funded or didn't even apply this round on how do we make sure that your grants are submitted in a way to be as strong as possible to compete. And then 2, this is year 1. We're going to be asking for grant applications as early as March. We're only about 6 months around from the next cycle, so please don't be disheartened. I will just mention up front, this is my home in San Jose. Santa Clara County is the 5th largest county in California. None of our applications were awarded in the entire county. But we're not parochial as a commission. We're not political as a commission. We're really doing our best with the information we have to make sound policy decisions, as you do on your council as well. And the stronger your grant applications are, the more that helps us to make those strong decisions. So again, please don't be disheartened.
Thank you very much. And thank you for the Game Changers book.
Oh, thank you, Council Member. We truly appreciate it. I didn't know if anyone else on your team wanted to speak because their name was on there. They do have more time. City Manager, did you want to speak? Because you certainly have time. You did turn in a card.
Well, thank you very much. As a city manager and as the councilwoman stated, often staff makes a recommendation and the public, the citizens, the vendors, they come to the podium and bring additional information or additional insight that the council or the city manager may not have had. The one thing I did read today was some possible scoring considerations. There was a memo, I guess, dated August 14th, signed by the chair of Shasta Regional Transportation Agency. So we're delighted that our application was considered. We are disappointed because the way we read the agenda before we flew up, it appeared that Montebello was part of the staff recommended list. So when we got here, we saw that there was a replacement agenda, and so we were caught off guard and disappointed. But we do want the commissioners today to consider the possibility of recommending Montebello as a ATP grant participant, simply because the need for active transportation in an urban area, as you can all imagine, is tremendous. The need is there. The sidewalks are not available for pedestrians to walk, and Vivian wanted to say this, the elderly citizens who wait for buses really have no sidewalks to walk. So just wanted to state that today. Thank you very much. Yeah.
And well stated as well. I'm going to have Laurel respond because this may have been a new document, but the Montebello listing was not changed in that document. But
Correct.
I'll let Laurel respond.
It's essentially the same. But I would offer that the MPO piece is coming forward in November, and they are within the SCAG MPO, and they do have another chance in that go-around. So they should be talking to the people locally.
If I remember right, SCAG has used our adopted guidelines. No.
I believe they might be adding some points. We'd have to talk to them. I think they're adding points for disadvantaged communities, so it may be that they can up their score with that. So I would say talk to LA Metro and SCAG.
Well, thank you very much.
No, thank you. We thank you very much. Let's move forward. We have first Mark Watts. Second will be Carl Hasty. Third, Stephen Patchen. Mark Watts, welcome. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too, Mr. Chairman. Members, I'm here today on behalf of the Tahoe Transportation District. We submitted an urban and small grant. I forget the actual title. Yeah, small urban and rural grant. For a very, very important project. We advanced in the submittal 2 elements of that project. The project is the Fanny Bridge Community Revitalization Project, which, if any of you have been to Lake Tahoe and you go through the Y will no longer exist when this project is eventually done. It'll have a brand new bridge. It'll relinquish the old bridge for active transportation purposes. And Carl will give you a little bit more definitional information about the project itself. We were very pleased to have seen ourselves on Caltrans' recommendation list and a little disappointed when the commission list came out without us on there. We have great hopes to take your lead and come back, and we look forward to it. I just want to underscore the vitality and the importance of this particular project, that these 2 elements would have jump-started. Not only does it provide for safety and operational improvements in that vicinity, which are very, very important for the west shore and north shore of Lake Tahoe, but as well, it would have provided economic development potential, as well as very important water quality issues. And you know the water quality problems and challenges we have at the lake, trying to preserve the clarity and keep that lake moving forward in a positive way. So with that, I'll introduce Carl Hasty, who's the director of the Tahoe Transportation District. So thank you very much.
Mark Watts, thank you. Any questions for Mark Watts? And with apologies to my colleagues, I did not ask my colleagues if they had any questions and comments about the Montebello project. So this is an opportunity for questions and comments from colleagues, should you have. Yes, Commissioner Inman.
I just wondered on the Montebello, since there seems to have been misunderstanding if they thought they read the report and they were on the go list and discovered something different here. I mean, did we learn a lesson from that at all, or was it confusing to anybody, or?
Well, when we published the item, we published our recommendations, but at the back of that, we put the full list of projects showing the scores for all of the list of projects. That was about 16 pages. And they're at least the second that actually thought that being on that list meant that they were recommended. I had another call from someone who thought the same thing. So
there's actually a big dark black line that separates the above the line and below the line.
Well, in the latest book item, the most recent item that we released, we actually put a separator page in to try to make it clear that that was not the same list. Yeah.
Good point, Commissioner Inman. Thank you. Any other questions on the Montebello project? Yes, Commissioner Midaffer.
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Inman. That was going to be my question, and so thank you for that. I guess the only other thing I would ask of staff is, from what I've read in this, there really isn't any room left for additional money unless a project went away. We'd have to kill a project that's been awarded in order to redistribute funding. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
And just the only clarification, recommended for award, of course. Yeah, of course.
Chair, since I represent Montebello, if I may just add,
of course,
for clarity, I would strongly suggest reviewing the original document that was placed on the CTC website, Because if, as a city manager, if someone came to the podium and said, gee, I read your agenda and I thought it read one way, and then I came here and it's actually different, then I would consider maybe in the future the articulation of the information may need to be reviewed. So that's the only thing I'd like to add, because there was confusion. We are intelligent folks in Montebello, and so we would not have made such a great blunder, but we do appreciate the consideration. Right, so I just wanted to make that comment for the future. Thank you.
You bet. Yeah, the black line was an easy line to miss. I missed it the first time I read the 45 pages, too. So thank you. And Carl Hasty, please step forward to be followed by Stephen Patchen.
Good afternoon, Chairman, Commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity, and I want to congratulate you all in bringing forward this first round. It's difficult bringing forward a new program. There's lots we are all learning from it. Yesterday we had our 18th annual Tahoe Summit, which was hosted by Senator Feinstein. And this has been our touchstone event for our partnership at Lake Tahoe, which includes the private sector, local governments, the 2 states, and the federal government. And it's that partnership of what we've learned how to leverage each other and get things done. I'm asking you today to consider some criteria that may be outside of ATP, some things that are typically in a grant program, such as the one you just heard prior to this item. For us, we have a time-sensitive aspect to our project, which is on the Caltrans list, and the Caltrans recommendation included this element of the project that has over $29 million of federal and local money. We're ready to go to construction as early as next year. So these are things that for us are really important, since we do not have much else available to us, and trying to package things in this way is extremely important. I've submitted a joint letter from the 2 local jurisdictions up there, as well as the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency and the Public Utility District, in support of your consideration on this as well. And short of that, if ATP is not in our cards this first round, I really would ask that the CTC and the Transportation Agency would work with us to help us meet this construction clock, and to move forward on this would be a big help for us. This is a major project, and it takes a lot of time for us at Tahoe to get these things done. So I thank you for your consideration.
Carl Hasty, thank you for traveling all the way down. Are there questions for Carl? Seeing none, any staff response? Seeing none. Carl and Mark, thank you for traveling down today. And again, we hope you will reapply, and we're thrilled by the additional funds that you have to this project, and it seems so ready to go. We're Stephen Patchen with SCAG, to be followed by Dan Little from Shasta, and then Councilwoman Jan Harnick from Palm Desert. Stephen?
Thank you. Good afternoon. On behalf of SCAG, I am the Senior Regional Planner for the Southern California Association of Governments, and I've only been on the job for 2 months, but was dropped into this project starting off, so it's been very exciting, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk to Commissioners, Mr. Chairman. The Active Transportation Program is a tremendous opportunity for the SCAG region to collaborate with the state to make progress on our active transportation goals, as well as the state's broader goals for creating sustainable communities and implementing SB 375. We were pleased to see so many quality applications submitted from the SCAG region, including projects in over 100 different cities, requesting nearly $500 million. This broad interest in the ATP from across our urban, suburban, and more rural communities is a strong endorsement of this new program. It also reflects a strong and growing commitment from our elected officials, planners, businesses, and residents to realize the vision of our regional transportation plan, sustainable community strategy, and creating greater transportation choices. We support CTC staff's recommended project list for the statewide competition, which will help implement critical safety projects, increase mobility by connecting communities, provide safe and attractive pathways to schools and transit. We also appreciate your support for SCAG's proposal to implement a region-wide safety and encouragement campaign that will complement and help maximize the use and benefit of other ATP investments in our region. We also recognize, based on testimony we've already heard, that there were many worthy projects not funded in our region. and we are committed to continuing to work at all levels of government to address the unmet need. To this end, we look forward to providing you with our recommendations for an additional $78 million of projects to be funded through the regional ATP in October.
And that's time.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for traveling all the way up, Stephen, and congratulations on your new role with SCAG. Are there questions of Stephen? Great. We also always like to encourage folks, if you have additional comments that you'd like to submit in writing to the Commission and staff, that always helps us too. And having it before the hearing is also helpful so that we can give it as deep of consideration as we can. Next is Dan Little, followed by Councilwoman Jan Harnick, to be followed by Supervisor John Benoit.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Dan Little with the Shasta Regional Transportation Agency. It's good to see you again. I'm here to take a little different twist on it. I'm not here to argue the relative merits of a project. I'm here to talk about an administrative oversight that a letter from our chair addresses and another letter I believe that you have. And before I do that, I do want to thank the Commission staff. They've been great in working with us. I was an evaluator as well, and I can say that everybody did a really excellent job considering the tight time frames that they had. So this administrative oversight, it's relating to not having a third score on the applications because an evaluator didn't happen to be available to do that, which I can understand as an evaluator, but still it left some applications at just a simple mathematical disadvantage, and I'm asking for consideration on that. And why it doesn't sound like that big of a deal to not have a third score because you still had two, I could perhaps illustrate quickly by an analogy of, we all remember going to the fair and having the basketballs where you pay money and you shoot 3 basketballs and you win a big prize. Well, 770 applicants paid some money for their 3 basketballs, and they went and shot, and some had 3 evaluators, and they shot pretty well, and they received a project. Some had 2 good shots and a really terrible air ball, and they got that one thrown out as an outlier, and that's fine. And some, like our agency, had 2 decent shots, and that third shot was going to be the one to make or break the project. And then we were told, sorry, there's no more balls left, and you don't get to take that third shot. And that's a big deal for just a handful of projects. It's probably about 12 projects, but it affects everything from San Diego County up to Del Norte County and my own county as well. So what we're asking for is just consideration between now and October. We paid for our 3 balls, and we want to be able to shoot that third ball or have 3 new balls to shoot. And we want to be able to have, if any of those projects did indeed rise to the level to receive funding, that they would in fact be considered in October, and there are remedies to do that, such as contingency projects. Thank you.
Dan, thank you for your thoughtful comments, and I think there's at least 2 questions from the Commission, starting with Commissioner Fromer and Commissioner Medaffer.
No, I would probably defer and wait till everyone's had a chance for public comment before, because I have questions for staff.
Oh, thank you. Okay, thanks for the clarification. Commissioner Medaffer?
Thank you. I guess the question I have for you, Mr. Little, is, it is troubling to read that, and I did talk to staff after I saw your letter. How many projects did not have a third score?
Staff could answer that better than I. I did my own evaluation, though, and if you had 2 lousy scores, let's face it, the third score wouldn't have mattered.
Well, that was going to be my next question. How much would the third score made a difference on the outcome? I wanted to get your opinion first, and I was going to ask the same as
Sure, appreciate that. I counted about 12 applications, again, from San Diego to Del Norte, that were in contention for funding, if not for receiving that third score.
Okay, and then to staff, same thing. How many didn't have the third score? And then the second question, would the third score have affected outcomes? And if so, wouldn't that have affected other projects that did get awarded?
Well, I did not count, I will admit, I did not count the projects that did not have a third score. But what we did do at the Commission is the staff evaluated all of those projects to determine if, based on our evaluation, we thought that a third score would make a difference.
Right.
And we did not find any where we felt that it would change our recommendation. I do believe that most of the ones missing are below the line. I don't know that most of those have fairly low scores already. I don't think it would have made any difference. But we looked at every single application, And I think I can confidently say that we would not have changed our recommendation in any of those cases.
And if you had, another project that did get awarded would likely have to go away to free up that cash flow.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
If the third score had made a difference and they would have been awarded, at that point you've been oversubscribed.
Yes, well, at this point, yes, we would absolutely be oversubscribed.
Okay, I just would say that this gets into the lessons learned department, and I am very sympathetic to the rural areas of the state. Even though I'm from San Diego, I've moved by Shasta, moved by Tahoe, and it's just simply not enough money, which gets back to a whole other host of issues well outside of the ATP discussion, that this state is woefully underfunded when it comes to transportation, especially areas like active transportation, which are so very important. So it is frustrating, but I would hope that you guys would, in fact, as the chair has said, reapply, and you've learned lessons too, and maybe it'll help you out the next time.
Commissioner Burke?
I would like to ask staff, in the future, will everyone get 3 scores?
Yes, Commissioners, we have already discussed that with the department, and part of this is partly really due to the very compressed time frame. So when at the last minute somebody failed to return a score, the department just didn't have time to go back out. But what we have discussed already is changing our procedures for next time, that we will take more time with our evaluations. We will be able to build in more time in the next cycle than we were able to this time, and we will look toward coming up with a consensus score for every application instead of a bunch of separate scores with an average, that we would want to work with the evaluators to come up with a consensus score for each application to avoid this problem in the future.
I really hope that in terms of the next round, that we give particular review to those who didn't get a 3rd score.
Good.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Burke. Director Boutros.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just really wanted to recognize the concerns that are being raised here in terms of the process and the lessons learned. I can assure you that we've learned quite a few lessons, and we will be taking all these lessons into account as we move into the next process. We're not talking about whether we have a missing score. We will not have a missing score because we will only really have a single score to report recommendations based on. This is a process that really kind of evolved in a very, very, very compressed time frame. The department did the best they can with the duration that we had, and then we jumped in towards the end and did whatever we could to really normalize as much of the scores, if you would, as we can, to really come up with a recommendation that we, as the staff, can stand by and defend. And we're here recommending this with the understanding that there are some concerns raised about the process, about how this went along. But, at this point in time, this is the best that we can offer for you to consider in adopting this program. Now, you have the whole discretion as to whether you accept the recommendations or not, or direct staff to change them, or defer the action until a future meeting if you want, which I don't really advise because we are running under a very tight frame here to finish this program so we can set up our process for the next cycle, which is going to start right immediately after the November meeting. So I want you all to keep in mind that this is just a single step in a hopefully long program that will be brought before the Commission hopefully every 2 years. So that's really what I wanted to say. So we are learning, and we will continue to take into account all these points and concerns that are being raised.
Dan, thank you again for the thoughtful comments. It's really helpful to us as we continue to refine this process.
Thank you. I appreciate your consideration.
You bet. We're going to go to Councilwoman Jan Harnick, Supervisor John Benoit, and Peter, forgive me, I can't read it accurately, from Ventura County Transportation Commission. Councilwoman, welcome.
Good afternoon. If I may, I'd like to have Supervisor Benoit speak first.
Sure. Supervisor Benoit, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With your consent to that, on behalf of the Riverside County Transportation Commission, Coachella Valley Association of Governments, Riverside County itself, and the South Coast Air Quality Management District, we're here to say thank you for your recommendation from the staff at any rate at this point. I'm Supervisor Benoit from Riverside County, but I also serve on all those other boards. And I am pleased to say that together with Tom Kirk, our Executive Director from CVAG, and Councilwoman Harnick, we're here to express our appreciation. And it's fun to be in front of so many of my good friends, and particularly our favorite friend, Joe Tavallone from Riverside. Thank you, sir. Long years of service here. I'm proud to have been involved in this project since the very beginning. This unique active transportation project actually received its first shot in the arm from the South Coast Air Quality Management District as an air quality program. That $17.4 million got the ball rolling. The contribution there was immediately followed by a $10 million contribution from our local health care district and $20 million of our local active transportation money. Your $10.9 million recommendation today is incredibly important financially, but it also says a lot about what the state thinks of our project and how the Inland Empire is embracing the active transportation model. So I'm here today to say thanks to the staff, presumably thank all of you for your approval today and for your support of this great project. We will deliver a world-class active transportation project that will be the envy of many other places, not only in California but around the nation, and we appreciate your consideration today.
Supervisor Benoit, thank you for flying all the way up. And for our audience, the project he's referencing, we heard about more at a commission meeting a few months ago. It's about 50 miles long.
Yes, sir.
Which is truly an amazing statement about active transportation. Thank you for your testimony today. Any questions of Supervisor Benoit? Great. Councilwoman Harnick.
Well, thank you so much. I've been in the Coachella Valley for a long time, and for decades there's been discussion of some sort of transportation down the Whitewater Wash, and it took the vision of Supervisor Benoit and the creativity and support of Tom Kirk and many other community members to bring this to where it is today. And the CV Link, yes, it's 50 miles of active transportation, but it's not only innovative, it is logical. In the Coachella Valley, we have many pockets of wealth, but we also have underserved communities of extreme poverty, some of the poorest communities in California. CV Link takes down barriers. It creates access to entertainment, to recreation, to employment, to education, and to exercise. In the Coachella Valley, we have a higher than average unemployment rate. It brings access to jobs, safe transportation to jobs. The CV Link also will bring wonderful and easy access to education. We have many schools along the CV Link. An extreme number of our students come from families where there has never been a family member who's gone to college. College of the Desert is right in the middle of those communities, right off the CV Link. Our exercise, we have an inordinate percentage of childhood obesity in our valley. And Supervisor Benoit spoke about the support we get from the Desert Health Care, and that is because of that point, and we hope to make a real difference in that. We see bicycles, we see bicycle exchange programs, we see people, we see track teams, we see our youth, we see the newly employed and the re-employed going down that CV Link. Thank you so much for your consideration and your support.
Councilwoman Harnick, thank you for coming all the way up from Palm Desert. Are there any questions of the Councilwoman?
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, again, is Peter with Ventura County, then Jeannie Ward-Waller with Safe Routes to School, followed by Kenneth Cow of MTC. Peter, welcome.
Yes, I'm Peter DeHaan with the Ventura County Transportation Commission, and I'll start out saying, Chairman Gardino, in Ventura County, we share your pain since no projects in our county were recommended either. We also, I guess, share the pain of Dan Little since I believe one of our projects was one of those that the third score might have made a difference. But my reason for talking is for lessons learned, there was a comment that I heard consistently, and I thought you should be aware of it because I think it probably affects a lot of this state, and that is that it came from small agencies, the ones, a lot of them like with 20,000 population or less, so very small staffs, and what they consistently said was they felt it was beyond their staff's capability to meet the requirements of the program, and so they passed and didn't apply. And we are really disappointed because we've had, when we've used, some of them use CMAQ funds, and those projects in some cases have been very effective for active transportation. So there's a lot of potential for active transportation in these small towns. So it's not an easy problem to solve, but we hope that the next round that we can find ways to make it easier for small towns like that. So that's all I had.
Peter, thank you for your thoughtful remarks. Are there questions for Peter? Seeing none, we'll go to Jeannie Ward-Waller, followed by Kenneth, followed by Renee. Jeannie, welcome back to the mic.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you for hearing my comments. I'm Jeannie Ward-Waller with the Safe Routes to School National Partnership. I'm here and happy to support the staff recommendation for the Cycle 1 program. We commend the staff at CTC and at Caltrans both for their hard work to put together this program. We've been hearing a lot about that today. We worked very closely throughout the program development process and really appreciate how responsive they were throughout the process to our concerns. We're pleased to see the particularly strong emphasis on Safe Routes to School projects and also on projects in disadvantaged communities. We're also pleased that the recommended program meets the statutory minimum for non-infrastructure projects. Education, encouragement, and enforcement are critical to getting people to change their behavior and use biking and walking infrastructure. These programs also help to identify and build public support for new projects and are critical to ensuring that those projects are both needed and used once they're in place. We look forward to the MPO awards this fall and making the program even better in the next cycle. One issue we think needs a closer look is the benefit to disadvantaged communities and how that criteria is applied and measured on projects. As I said, we're very supportive of how much funding is going towards these projects in this first cycle, but we understand that the definition was kind of loosely interpreted on projects, and there may be at least one project in the list that wasn't really strongly supported by disadvantaged residents in the community, even though the project claims a benefit to disadvantaged communities. I think it's really critical to get this right, to make sure that the project really does benefit the community and those residents as it claims to. So thank you for taking my comments. If I have one more second, I want to make a plug. The National Partnership is organizing a project. We're actually going to bicycle from Sacramento to Fresno, and we're going to promote the places, the schools in particular, that have gotten awards. And I've already spoken with Commissioner Assemi about this, and so I hope he's going to get his bike ready to ride with us. But I hope that all of you will come out and support. So thanks.
Thank you. And you heard directly that Darius Assemi is going to cycle all the way from Sacramento to Fresno. Thank you, Jim.
At least on the Fresno section.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Are there any questions to Jeannie? Seeing none? Oh, yes, Fran.
I have one. Jeannie, one of the things you mentioned was safety, and I think as we've all been entrenched in this active transportation process and discussion, one of the things that just jumps out at me continually as being one of those folks that stands on the sidewalk till the little guy says it's okay to go, and everybody else around me just goes and looks at me like I'm totally out of my mind for standing there. I really want to encourage your efforts and whatever we can do, because I realize that we're making significant capital investments, and we really need to have a clear understanding of what the rules are we're all going to operate under. And we see that with our bicyclists, too. And I realize there's something called momentum, and you kind of look both ways and then go for it often. And that worries me, because as we have higher and higher volumes, if we have our vehicles operating under one set of rules and assuming that those apply to the other modes, but in reality we're not functioning that way, we're just asking for accidents, and that's not going to be good. So I'd love to hear more thoughts, see what you think we can all collectively do. I know there are certain pockets of enforcement. We all know by Caltrans District 7 nobody jaywalks, because that's an area of extreme enforcement, and that may be some of the issues we have to do. But I know it's an issue in my local city. I just read the article in the local city council debating what to do about the safety issues. So I think we all have to work together to make sure that we do all obey all the rules.
I'll just quickly respond. That's something that Safe Routes to School has always put an emphasis on, is partnering with law enforcement, not only doing the safety education, but also doing the enforcement. I think all of that needs to work in tandem to support even the infrastructure improvements, and the most effective projects have all those kind of wrapped into one. So your point is very, very much taken. Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Jeannie, for
and
the
I would like to add also, Commissioner, on that, based on our review of some of these projects that have on our recommended list for non-infrastructure, that is a large part of what they're doing. They're doing education on the rules of the road and that kind of thing, and also some of these are doing enforcement, where they're working with their local police to do more enforcement around the schools. So that is something that some of these projects are starting to address with the non-infrastructure funds.
Thank you. We're going to go to Ken Cow and then Renee DeViroki. Ken?
Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Kenneth Cow with Metropolitan Transportation Commission. I just want to thank the Commission staff as well as Caltrans staff for their hard work in getting this first cycle of ATP on the agenda today. We were happy to have helped out in that evaluation and know that it was a very large Herculean effort. We do look forward to the next round of the ATP, and we'll be happy to work with your staff as well as Caltrans in improving the process for next time. And finally, while I'm up, I just wanted to mention that the regional share, MTC has received about over 120 applications, totaling $200 million, chasing after $30 million. So we're in the process of reviewing that now, and we're on track to get that approved by our commission in September, bring it to the CTC in November. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ken. Unless there are questions, we'll move directly on to Renee DeViroki.
Renee DeViroki, representing Sacramento Area Council of Governments. I wanted to thank CTC staff and Caltrans staff again for this great process. Recognizing the challenges of having to take a project off to add another project, I do want to pose the option of creating a contingent list. We have a project in our region that is just on the cusp of funding, and noting that most of us have experience where projects don't necessarily deliver on time, this seems like a good option, possibly for this round or even the next round, for considering, since there's so much need out there, and making sure some projects can be able to move ahead. But that was my comment for today. Thank you.
Renee, thank you. And would staff like to respond to that suggestion?
Well, at this point, I think it's kind of a non-issue regarding a contingency list, because there won't be savings or any project failures, basically, in time before we'll do a new call for projects. And so we wouldn't want to give any project an unfair advantage when we do the next round of competitive selection. They should recompete. So because we're going to do another call for projects likely at the end of March, there wouldn't be time to even pull off of a contingency list at this point.
Laurel, thank you for your response. There was at least one comment from a commissioner overall. Commissioner Frommer?
Yeah, just a quick question. First of all, Laurel, and everyone. I appreciate all the effort that went into this, and I was actually really pleased to see the interest that we got in this program. So just so I'm clear, though, we have a long list of projects. These were just all the projects, right? This is everyone who applied.
Yes, there's 16 pages, and that's all 771.
Okay, and then in the resolution here are the projects that were approved.
Yes, there should
That's
be,
it.
I think the next list after that would be 3 pages of the statewide and 1 page of the small urban and rural. And then we had, I think, a couple of letters.
Yeah, no, I just want to
Yeah.
make sure I'm
Yeah.
because it was a little confusing to me. Okay, that was my question. Thank you.
Commissioners, if I may.
Certainly. Director Boutros.
Yeah, Commissioner Frommer, just to elaborate on the question that you raised, on the top of the sheets up here, it says CTC staff recommendations on the recommendations themselves. The other list is just a list of projects, so it doesn't really say anything about recommendations. So that's really the distinction. Even though it's a small letter, we had a challenge in trying to display all this information into a single sheet here. So.
Other comments or questions from commissioners? Undersecretary Yanis.
Sure. Wanted to make a couple brief comments. First, to answer something Commissioner Inman mentioned about enforcement issues. We do, under the agency, also have the Office of Traffic Safety, and the governor appointed a new director there, Rhonda Kraft, and she's interested in taking a look at the funding they do for enforcement, including enforcement of bike safety issues and education in that area, in light of this new ATP program, to make sure that program they run is a good complement. So happy to, continue that effort and report back what OTS is looking at. The other thing, just to mention it at a broad level, is when we started this program, this was after MAP 21. There were some other changes in federal law. Looking at what the base was in terms of funding in this area, there seemed to be, maybe some verbal agreements on different funding levels. There were some federal funds that used to be designated that became optional. What seemed in the end that you really only had as a requirement of law in this area was about $7.2 million in the bicycle transportation account. So this is certainly a huge new commitment to the state. It has, for several years been a commitment of the regions, and it looked like we were seeing, something perhaps in the neighborhood of $100 million with some prior federal funds and so forth. But this is great to have a consolidated program and to be able to, with clarity, define the state's commitment and see the total list of projects in this area. So thank you for all the work on this.
Brian, thank you. What is the will of the Commission? The staff has made a recommendation.
I move for staff recommendation.
Okay. There's a motion by Commissioner Assemi. It sounds like a second by Commissioner Tablioni. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? That passes unanimously. So many lessons learned from applicants as well as staff on all sides. And we're entering into another round, and we hope the MPOs who are now going to move forward with their process will also learn from the lessons that we have seen and heard today as well. With that, let's move on to item 21. Laurel?
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Oh, is Lori going to take this?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Item 21 is an information item. At the May Commission meeting, staff outlined steps to begin the 2016 STIP guidelines process, including workshops to be held this summer. The first workshop was held on June 11th in Sacramento, and the second on July 16th in Los Angeles. We've been very pleased with the attendance and level of participation and the spirit of collaboration amongst all the participants. There were over 80 attendees at the first workshop and about 55 at the second, both in person and on the phone. We've received some very good input so far. These workshops have identified some possible areas for revisions, including simplifying and using mode-neutral performance measures, clarifying the goals and objectives to be achieved with STIP programming, development of an RTIP template, and posting RTIPs on the Commission website. Also, at the second workshop, the department presented information on the ITIP and the upcoming Interregional Transportation Strategic Plan, or the ITSP. To increase transparency, the department has committed to a robust public process for the ITSP update. This process will help identify interregional program goals and funding priorities for the ITIP. The workshop summaries are posted on our website under Programs and the STIP. The third workshop will be held tomorrow, August 21st, here in San Jose at the San Jose City Hall from 8:30 to 10:30. At this workshop, we will be further discussing the overall goals of the STIP and performance measures. As stated at the May meeting, our intent is to bring a draft of the guidelines to the Commission at the October 8th, 2014 Commission meeting.
This is an information item unless there are questions from colleagues. Great. Lori, you have the next item as well, please?
Yes. This is also an information item. This is an information item on the 2014 report of STIP County and Interregional Share Balances, more commonly known as the Orange Book. Since SB 45, statutes have required the Commission to keep a record of county share balances and to make the June 30th balances available each year to regions no later than August 15th. This year's report was emailed to regions on August 1st and was posted on our website. We also distributed and mailed hard copies on August 11th. For each county share and for the interregional share of the Orange Book lists the shares available, including all adjustments to those shares and a reconciliation to the previous report. Each project program from the shares, including any allocations made within the last year and the unprogrammed share remaining. Along with meeting our statutory requirements, another reason for publicizing the share balances through the Orange Book is that it helps us to find and correct errors in our records, should there be any. Staff will work with any agency that has questions about the data in the report.
This is also an information item unless there are questions. Lori, thank you. Item 23, Carrie.
Commissioners, agenda item number 23 is an informational item. Kome Ajise, the Deputy Director of Planning and Modal Programs from Caltrans, will be presenting information or an update on the California Freight Mobility Plan. Kome?
Okay. Questions of Carrie? Okay, Kome's coming forward.
Good afternoon, Chair Gardino and Commissioners. Kome Ajise, Deputy Director for Planning. Glad to be here to report on the status of our freight mobility plan that we've been working on. You should have a one-pager that shows a summary of our delivery schedule. Really where we are is we've spent the last month and a half in public processes, and we're now at the point where we're trying to infuse those comments into the document and have a final draft for review. And I think the thing to note on the schedule is we have a couple of opportunities to come back to the Commission if there are comments that the Commission has. There are 2 Commission meetings that are on the schedule for us to get additional comments. I'm a little bit out of breath running over here. That will be on October 9th and November 12th. Where we've been, the public meetings, we had 8 public meetings across the state with an average of about 20 public members participating in those public meetings. And we spent a goodly amount of time talking to a lot of interested public agencies and as well as members of the public and officials of companies that actually run the freight business. The comments that we received on the first draft, like I said, are extensive. The comments have been reviewed. We would expect to have a new draft document by the 5th of September, with intent that we'll take that into our CFAC meeting on the 10th of September. We'll have a meeting at at SCAG coming up. The issue at hand that we're looking at is really, we feel like the document that we have has covered all the grounds that you could cover with regards to freight in California. We've been able to identify all of the projects that are out there that are freight related. I think we have the tune of about $107 billion worth of projects, over 700 projects. What we are now trying to do is to sharpen the focus of the document, that it provides us some strategy of how we in fact go forward, anticipating that there will be some funding programs out there, both state and federal, that we should be shooting for. So that would be the work of the next few months, is to sharpen the focus of the document itself. I guess in closing, I just want to outline that even though we feel like a lot of the work has gone into developing the plan is done, there's a lot more work to continue to do in the freight business. We have actually segregated our freight office to a single purpose office to deal with freight, because I'm reminded that every day continues to be a freight day.
Kome, thank you. Are there comments or questions from the Commission? Excellent. Thank you for the update and the timeline. There is one comment. Vice Chair Dunn.
Yes, and not necessarily for Kome, but for staff. I understand that the agency continues to have workshops on the freight strategy. I also know that CARB is having their own workshops and meetings on a sustainable freight strategy. I would respectfully ask our staff not to schedule Caltrans updates on freight strategy without also including CARB to present an update. It's very confusing to the business community out there to have two different state agencies presenting two different freight strategies and asking for input. So if we can't get it done on the ground level, perhaps at the Transportation Commission, we could at least have both agencies presenting at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Boutros.
Thank you, Commissioner Dunn. Our plan is to bring this item back to the Commission at the October meeting with hopefully a presentation by Caltrans as to the status of the plan and any comments they received, and also allow the Commission to make its own comments on the plan. And we also want to bring the ARB folks to come in and talk about the plan that is being developed through that organization as well. We plan to have both items presented at the same meeting.
Thank you.
If I may just real quickly, to assure Commissioner Dunn, we are working very, very closely with ARB on their freight strategy. We're in fact they're in fact using our Freight Advisory Committee as an advisory panel to that process as well. And so we're very coordinated with modeling and the policy itself.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kome, thank you for that. Unfortunately, Caltrans was not at the meeting recently in Southern California where CARB was presenting their freight strategy. Again, it's very confusing to have separate workshops, separate meetings for separate plans. You two may be coordinating, but the rest of us in the real world that actually have to implement what you come up with would really like to see transparency and a single purpose. So
well taken.
I would really encourage you to not have one meeting without the other one present. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Dunn. Excellent, excellent advice. We're going to move on to 24, and we're going to ask Stephen Mahler and Scott McGowan.
All right, Commissioners.
To address this in 10 minutes or less so that we can keep on calendar, knowing how important this is, but we know you can deliver. Stephen, did you want to start?
Yes, Commissioners. The next item is a discussion and presentation on the Department Stormwater Permit. This is a permit that has been evolving over time. The requirements have been evolving over time. Now we have a fresh wrinkle on top of it as a trash wrinkle. But the probably most important message for the Commissioners to understand that up to now the Department has been spending roughly $100 million a year to meet the trash requirements and the stormwater requirements. The new requirements are going to probably push this into the neighborhood of $300 million a year. So Scott, it's all yours.
Okay, good afternoon, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Scott McGowan. I'm the Chief Environmental Engineer for Caltrans and the single focal point for the Caltrans Stormwater Management Program. I wanted to touch a little bit on how complicated and dynamic and complex this program is. It really touches a lot and affects a lot of the multiple functions within the department. It touches all of the capital outlay support functions and project delivery, as well as maintenance, has its own separate program, traffic operations for encroachment permit projects, the smaller constructions for utilities, our legal staff, as well as all 12 districts and the functions within those districts. I'm showing this permit history, but it's really important to point out that 2011 to 2013, as we had this collaboration and discussion with the State Water Board on model practices and performance-based permit requirements, because I'm going to talk a little bit about total maximum daily loads, which is a impaired waters program in the Clean Water Act that makes us retrofit a lot of retrofit projects to impair these polluted waters. And we knew this was coming into our permit as the State Board was putting these into all MS4 permits or into all stormwater permits. So we had this 2-year collaboration with them to work on this, saying this is not sustainable, we'll never be able to do it. We have named an 84 total maximum daily load, so we need standard model practices for pollutants anywhere you are in the state and performance measures for achieving those waste load allocations in each of the watersheds. So right now, at the total maximum daily loads in California, about 29% of the state highway system. We have 8 pollutant categories that we worked out with them and require treatment of 1,650 acres per year, which will be our performance base. It's a lot. It's going to be challenging, but the way that we were doing it before was very subjective. We were throwing money at these waste load allocation reductions. So again, the 2.5 years paid off working with the board on coming up with some performance-based measures. Another part of our permit is region-specific in the San Francisco Bay Area, Region 2 Water Board. We have some trash removal efforts that we are working on with the San Francisco Bay Regional Board. And then we have minimum capital project treatments in our permit, which is temporary controls in construction as well as permanent controls if we reach a certain trigger threshold. And we've estimated that to be about 5% of project costs. It varies. It depends on several criteria. The risk factor of the project. It could depend on the disturbed soil area as well as the rainfall. And then we have other requirements. We have over 100 performance or measurable objectives we have to accomplish that we mostly do with staff and with consultant contracts. If you take a look at this map, on the left is the green shades are all of our named, Caltrans named TMDL or total maximum daily load watersheds. It's over 4,100 centerline miles of Caltrans highway. It's about 28% of the state highway system. It's about 50,000 acres of right-of-way if you look at each individual impaired water body per pollutant. But part of that negotiation is we worked it out where we have overlapping pollutants in a watershed and we can build a treatment device that will treat both of those pollutants. We can get it down. So to calculate our 1650, we only are using 3,300 acres of right-of-way, not 5,600. 2/3 of the state drains and aren't named, and they will increase over time. And the reason we know this is because the map on the right, all the red are listed impaired water bodies currently in the Federal Clean Water Act, and those could turn into total maximum daily load where Caltrans is named as a stakeholder. Sorry. There's 2 ways that we'll get these credits each year, and what the State Board estimated this for these 1,650 to achieve in the total max daily loads, they estimated in the permit that it would cost $145 million to $290 million a year to get those 1,650. And the way that they based that on is they gave us a half discount where we get involved in cooperative implementation, where we pay into a watershed group, and there's a lot of watershed groups around the state where they are named as a stakeholder as well as Caltrans, so we can put the money into there. And this is key, and this is what we worked with them over the 2.5 years, because we wanted to be able to use different colors of money, not just put demands onto the shop to build standalone retrofit projects, but to get credit in regular projects where we treat already, and to join stakeholder groups where we could put money into stakeholder groups. We even worked out a water board grant, trying to work out an agreement where we could just transfer money to them and they can go out to these locals with money in their watershed groups. So this was a key way of determining how we could get credits using all three pots of money we have: our operating expense, our shop dollars, as well as our capital project money. So some of our unit strategies that we're going to look at is existing activities. So first thing we're doing is we're looking at everything we do now for water quality that we've never got credit before. How are we going to get credit for that? I'll give you an example. If we build rock slope protection or energy dissipators, and it controls sediment and a sediment impaired watershed, we want credit for that, for how much volume we treat with those devices that we put in anyway. We're going to look at other things like where we remove aerial deposited lead in the LA basin that may be impaired for metals. We should get credit for that. Porous friction course, we're looking at open graded asphalt concrete as a means for a water quality tool. We're also going to look at potential efficiencies and work with the water boards on using rock mulch, especially now in the drought time in California. We're going to look at rock mulch where we get infiltration without growing vegetation. Slopes for sheet flow. You remove the curb where it's safe, where you can remove the curb and dike, you can have sheet flow and you can get credit for infiltration. And then trash, of course, and I'll be talking a little bit about the trash amendment, all the things that we do currently to control trash, not just full capture. So what are some of the permit challenges? Well, our annual performance of 1,650 compliance unit, it's compounding. If we don't meet that 1,650, it rolls over to the following year requirement. So that could compound. We think that total maximum daily loads will increase over time. They're 84 now. We don't know how high they can go. And there could be disputes within the water boards on what counts. We're going to submit it. We're going to do it. Everything we spend money on, we're going to let them tell us if it counts or not. We think it does. And the statewide trash amendment, August 5th was a comment period closed. There were a lot of submitted, a lot of permit holders commented. People wanted more time. They didn't give more time for comments, so people submitted them. Some of the key areas that we're asking in our letter that you have in front of you is full capture is not feasible in all areas. One of the things we do for a total maximum daily load or an impaired for trash is we build a gross solid removal device that catches trash. Full capture means all the way down to 5 millimeters, so it'll get cigarette butts as well. Well, what's happening in some city and counties is they're getting full capture credit for putting screens on drain inlets. We can't do that everywhere due to hydroplaning, safety issues, maintenance factors, things like that. So we're asking them to look at other treatment devices other than full capture down to 5 millimeters that may count for trash. Looking at our alternative approaches, the things we do public education, we do institutional controls, we increase our adopt a highway, we increase our sweeping. How can we get credit for that? Working on it with them. And then meeting the 10-year compliance may be infeasible due to fundings. We're asking them to spread that out like the 20-year implementation plan for our total maximum daily loads. And then we're asking them to base it on a good faith effort. Once they do adopt this trash amendment, it will be incorporated in the Caltrans permit. We've spent a lot of time educating them that the transportation system is not like a typical municipal discharger. We're not a city or county. We're a thin strip that goes through many watersheds, and we have high-speed traffic that we have to maintain and roads to maintain. So we're not like a city or a county that can do what they have to do. So we've listened on some things. We want to apply these same principles to the trash amendment. And that is it. Is there any questions?
That was excellent, and this is such an important topic. Don't be surprised if there are several questions. Jim Marr.
Yes, just trying to put a little perspective on this. So what I'm hearing is that at this juncture,
the program could cost you close to $300 million a year, right?
For everything, you mean? For all the stormwater, yes.
Right, but that number's not going to get smaller because you're going to have more and more TMDL areas.
Over time, yes. But I will put a caveat on that number and why I can't, marry myself to the number, because there's a lot of questions we still need answered of what will count and what will not count. The more that we can have the State Board count for what we already do in projects, the less that we will have to build or do for future requirements.
So the strategy you outlined is something that you're hoping that you will be able to prevail upon with the State Water Resources Control Board, right?
Yes.
But you also have you have to deal with the regional boards, and they all got different people and different rules, and that was one of the concerns you've got, right?
Well, that was one of the keys of this 2.5-year collaboration, because before, where you might treat sediment different in the North Coast, Central Valley, and San Diego Regional Board, now we have model practices for sediment and all the other pollutants, so we will treat it the same way statewide. That was one of the keys that came out of the 2.5 years.
And last question is, you mentioned that you've got you're putting this money into pots that are shared by other responsible agencies and localities. About what percentage, do we have any sense for what percentage Caltrans is actually footing the bill? I mean, how much are they really chipping in, the rest, everybody else?
We've had several cooperative agreements or MOA, MOUs over the years, probably a few million a year. They're encouraging us to do it because they want these watershed groups to get kick-started. The LA County permit and the San Diego County permit, it's in their permits to require to do these groups, and they're really looking at us to get involved in that. That's why I proposed this grant program where we could administratively transfer some money to them and let them start going to these watersheds, and then we don't have to build anything and maintain it, and that gives us credit.
Okay, so I didn't quite get it. It sounds to me like Caltrans is footing the bigger portion of this bill by far.
With the watershed groups, I don't know if it's a bigger part of the bill or not, but whatever we put into it will give us our compliance credit for what we need to meet. So whether it's a bigger part of the credit, for every 88,000 we spend, we'll get 1 acre treated or one compliance unit.
I'm just concerned that over time we all want clean water. Nobody doesn't want clean water, but there's a law of diminishing return, and the cost of this is going to get ridiculous. And how much do we have for SHOP? $1 billion a year?
Approximately $1 billion a year. And right now 10% is going towards these type of things.
Yeah. And this isn't the only environmental mitigation or environmental stuff you guys have to deal with. So this is just one piece of it, but it's a monster-sized piece.
Well, just to put in perspective, it's going from 10% to about 30%.
Yeah.
I can't turn on my mic unless someone else turns theirs off. My apologies for that. Let's go to Commissioner Madaffer and then to Commissioner Inman.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Arp echoed many of the comments I was going to give. This is obviously a serious issue, and I understand and appreciate the goals of what the stormwater program is attempting to do, but this is just very troubling. And Stephen Mahler's comments just now as to going to 30%, and it's just very frustrating. I went through earlier today as we first got here, and I went through each of the agenda items, 26, 28, 36, 38, 65, and 73. Just on today's agenda, totals $56.45 million. That is a lot of money. When I think that we just, barely handed out a paltry, I shouldn't say it that way, because about 184 for active transportation with $1 billion worth of requests, we're going backwards. This is absolutely going backward in terms of our state's transportation infrastructure. And it's just frustrating to hear this, and it's amazing that they're imposing things that were already built. I'm fine with stuff that's new, but basically going back and reinventing the wheel as, there's projects that just were not built with this in mind, many a moon ago in the 60s and the 70s. And I just think it's unfair to the motoring public for safety, for goods movement, for commerce, and a whole host of other issues that we're now going to defer even more money for a backlog of projects that need to get done to really keep this state moving ahead from an economic standpoint on a bunch of stuff that I think ought to be deferred. And I don't know if it's at the state legislature that, there ought to be some sort of legislation that's put in place or suggested that would at least give some kind of an exemption for a period of time or something to really get some more realization to this problem. There is no additional funding. We see that there's no funding for really anything related to transportation. So I'm done with my soapbox other than just to say I'm just extremely frustrated sitting here listening to this report. I read it beforehand, and I'm even more frustrated now after hearing your report. And I know the speaker is planning some CEQA tweaks coming forward. I would seriously suggest to the executive director and staff that there be some discussion to bring this to the legislature's attention, to take 30% of an amount of money that isn't even adequate to cover the needs we have right now. I just keep seeing this transportation going backward more and more and more. And at some point, everybody's going to look in the mirror and go, what the heck have we done?
Thank you, Commissioner Medaffer. I think you spoke for, you certainly spoke for me, probably others on the commission as well. And matter of fact, you cleared all the lights with that comment.
Well said, Jim.
With that, we're going to move on. Angry letter to follow. Item 25, Stephen Muller.
Yes, Commissioners. Item 25 is an amendment to the TCIF program. We are amending in the Sanborn Road Highway 101 interchange into the program. Staff recommends approval.
There's a motion by Commissioner Frommer, second by Vice Chair Dunn. Discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Item 26.
Yes, Commissioners. Item 26 is for baseline amendments, baseline agreements for TCIF program. The staff recommends you approve the baseline agreements.
Motion by Commissioner Taglioni, second by Commissioner Alvarado. Discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? That passes. Item 27. Mitch?
Item 27 is the fund estimate for the aeronautics program and allocation capacity for 14-15 years. Staff recommends approval.
Motion by Commissioner Taglioni, second by Commissioner Alvarado. Discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? That passes. Stephen, thank you. You were beautiful.
I did my best.
Not just another pretty face. Item 28, Mitch Weiss.
Item 28 is financial allocation for fiscal year 14-15 aeronautics set aside to match federal airport improvement program grants. The request is for $550,000. This would be sub-allocated to Caltrans. Staff recommends approval with the exception that the matching funds be limited to $100,000, and if requests are for greater than $100,000, those would come in on an individual basis for the Commission to evaluate on a case-by-case basis. The reason for that request is in past years they've had some single request which would in one matching grant eat up all the funds, so we want to make sure to evaluate those individually. And I would also let Caltrans know that should they exhaust this $550,000 in the fiscal year, they can come back and request additional funds.
And Rachel, or if someone from Caltrans, you're comfortable with that exception or that caveat?
We are.
Great. Rachel, thank you. Questions from the Commission? Is there a motion? A motion by Commissioner Alvarado, second by Commissioner Taglioni. Discussion? Yes, Fran.
Just one quick thing. This is the program that gets a 90% federal match, right?
Correct.
With no cap, is what we were told at the TACA meeting by FAA.
FAA doesn't have a cap. That's correct.
So given the fact that we're so limited with resources, I would hate for us to leave any opportunities that are valid opportunities behind when we can get 90% match. So I just don't want us to think that we're being so frugal that we have a missed opportunity. So I think we need to also, at the same time, identify those valid projects and push that ceiling. If there's more money from the feds, I think Vince left, but this is FAA dollars anyway, we'll take them.
Fran, thank you. I think Mitch has duly noted that.
Yes.
And thank you. Excellent point. Other comments or questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Stephen, information calendar?
Yes, Commissioners, the next 6 items are in the information calendar. Staff sees no issues raised, and each item will not be presented unless requested by a Commissioner.
Are there any Commissioner requests on the information items? Seeing none, because I didn't even look, we're moving on to the consent calendar, and noting that item 41 and 43, Fran will need to recuse herself, I believe.
Yes, Commissioners. The next 26 items, 35 through 60, are the consent calendar. We are going to have the next changes to it. We're taking item 41 and 43 off of consent, and there are changes to item 55 where some fiscal year monies are being moved around. With those changes, staff recommends that you approve the consent calendar.
With those changes, is there a motion? That sounded like Commissioner Madaffer, second by Vice Chair Dunn. Questions? All those in favor? Opposed?
Okay.
Abstentions?
Now we need to take
That
up
passes.
item...
Fran, would you mind stepping out for a moment? Oh, sure. You want to say why?
I have to say why I need to recuse myself for item 41 and 43 as my employer, Majestic Realty, has property immediately adjacent to these.
Fran, thank you. Please don't go too far away, though.
Okay, Commissioners, item 41 is 58 resolutions of necessity. We need to have some changes to that. We will be withdrawing Resolution C-21-220, C-21-229, C-21-242, and C-21-259. With that, staff recommends that you approve the resolutions of necessity.
Second. And this needs 8 votes, correct?
Yes, I see 9 commissioners, so you're okay.
Great. All those in favor of staff's recommendation? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? You have your 9 votes. 43?
Thank you, Commissioners. Item 43 is a rescinding resolution for a priorly done resolution of necessity. Staff recommends you approve.
Second. Motion by Commissioner Taglioni, second by Commissioner Fromer. Questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? And you have your 9 votes.
Thank you.
Great. We can bring Commissioner Inman back from the soundproof room in the padded cell, and we're moving on to item 61 with Laurel.
Yes, Commissioners, this is an information item. Mendocino Council of Governments is proposing a STIP amendment to delay a project from 1516 to 1617. Staff sees no issues with this amendment and will bring it back in October, likely on the consent calendar.
Any questions of Laurel? Hearing none, we're moving to 62. Juan Guzmán.
Thank you, Commissioner. Item 62 is the allocation for shop projects. There's a change on one of the projects has been withdrawn, Project 70. That changes the number of projects being voted to 76 and the dollar amount to $532,068,000. Staff recommends your approval.
There was a motion by Commissioner Madaffer, second by Vice Chair Dunn. Discussion? All those in favor? Oh, I'm sorry, Fran, you have your mic on. Did you have a comment on this? No, okay, no problem. And welcome back. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? That passes. Juan?
Item 63 is also an allocation item for shop projects. These are projects program in 1415. This is an allocation for 3 projects for $11,107,000. Staff recommends your approval.
There's a motion by Commissioner Arp, second by Commissioner Assimi. Discussion? None? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? That passes. Item 64, Stephen?
Yes, Commissioners. Item 64 is a SHOP TCIF allocation of $1.8 million. Staff recommends approval.
Motion by Commissioner Taglioni, second by Commissioner Burke. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? That passes. Laurel, item 65.
Yes, Commissioners, items 65 through 67 are action items, requests for STIP allocations. I would note that there are some changes on the change list. These are relatively minor changes. These are requests for 1 state-administered project and 30 locally administered projects, and staff recommends your approval of all 3 items.
Motion by Commissioner Taglioni, second by Vice Chair Dunn. Discussion? None. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? It passes unanimously. 68. Laurel?
Yes, Commissioners, this is an action item. This is a request for allocation of $1.6 million in federally earmarked interstate maintenance discretionary funds. This is for a project in Orange County. The STIP funds were allocated in June. These federal earmarked dollars were sort of forgotten, and so we're picking them up right now, and staff recommends your approval of this allocation.
Motion by Vice Chair Dunn, second by Commissioner Taglioni. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? That passes. Item 69.
Yes, Commissioners, this item is an action item. This is a request for allocation of $2 million in Route 238 local alternative TIP funds. This is for the locally administered Route 238 Corridor Improvements Project, Phase 2. Staff recommends your approval of this allocation.
There's a motion by Commissioner Assemi, a second by Vice Chair Dunn. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? That passes. Item 70, Mitch?
Item 70 is a request for initial allocation for a shop project. This is on Route 25 in San Benito County. This is a situation in which the amount requested exceeds the programmed amount by more than 20%. The department has gone back and updated their estimates based on the need for additional excavation and drainage. Staff recommends approval of this item.
There's a motion by Commissioner Medaffer, second by Commissioner Taglioni. Discussion? Can someone address this? Welcome.
Design Office Chief for Central Region representing District 5. Tim Gubbins is the District Director for District 5, is on vacation, so I'm here to answer the question. Can you repeat the question, please?
Why is it 58% over?
Why is 58%? This is a safety project which typically moves at a very accelerated pace than a typical project. And at the beginning of this project, the adjacent property owner approached us saying they would be willing to take the material that was excavated from the project. When we got further down into the project process, the property owner declined to take the material, so we had to haul the material further, which escalated the cost, as well as the distance to haul it impacted the delivery of the project and the cost associated with it. Also, as we were moving through that project process, when we got our surveys early on, found that we needed to fit in the project to meet standards. At the end points, we needed some stage construction elements that we weren't expecting. Again, normally on a normal project, this would be caught and a PCR would be done. Because it's moving very quickly and it's caught during the current year, we did not have opportunity to put in that PCR.
Any further questions?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yes, please.
When you talked to the owner declined. Was that what? How far into the job were you before you talked to the owner about that?
Initially, at the very beginning, the property owner approached us. During the process, normally formal negotiations don't occur until after the project has been approved. When that project was approved, he was approached again, and it was at 30% design that he declined to work with us to take the material. So early on the process, but because the project is moving very rapidly, we were not able to make adjustments to the cost estimate because it was caught during a current year.
Well, it seems like we hear this kind of stories all the time. It's getting to be an item that bothers me, that we don't know a lot of this ahead of time. Under normal conditions in the private world, somebody would have to eat that besides us.
Yeah. And Commissioners, I would just note that unlike the supplemental funds that we're seeing later on the agenda, this is the first allocation. The department found this issue out while they were still in design, and so they went back and redid their estimate prior to asking for money, and are now asking for money based on the updated cost, which is really, I think, what we should expect them to do. Come to us with the latest estimates rather than come in after the fact, after they've awarded the contract, to try and get the money to close out. So I think this is what we want to encourage. I think the challenge we might be facing is that when you look at this and the next 6 items, what we have been seeing in the past meetings, and really for the last year or years, are supplementals to complete construction or to close out construction. But 4 of these 7 items are on the front end. They're either this one for the initial allocation or 3 which they're supplementals after the allocation but are needed to award. So this may be the beginning of a trend where we're seeing, rather than having substantial savings, we're having to come in and add on top of what we've already allocated, and perhaps having to have these updated estimates because of the changing bid environment and the changing economy.
Mr. Chair, I appreciate that explanation a great deal, because that has been a bone of contention for us, and it just wasn't real clear in the write-up that this was the case. So, I'm glad that we're never really excited about cost increases, but they do happen. And if we get the notification early enough like this, then you can deal with it. So I'm much more inclined to approve it than I am when you're held against the ropes and you still have to approve it, but then you're really ticked off about it.
Jim, thank you. An important clarification, Mitch. That was helpful. We do have a motion and a second on this item. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? And that is approved.
Item 71 is a request for supplemental funds. This is a SHOP project in Humboldt County. This is the District 1 office building that the Department of General Services is managing for the department. There are a number of issues related to this increase. They're asking for an additional $534,000 related to changes they're needing to make to comply with the state fire code and meet ADA requirements, and to replace some HVAC valves which they just installed. DGS is not here to answer questions because it would have cost more money to have them come here and answer questions. So Glenn Yee from the department is here should there be any questions with this item. Staff recommends approval.
There's a motion by Commissioner Arp, second by Commissioner Fromer. Questions? All those in favor? Yeah. Yes, Commissioner Assimi.
The overall cost to remodel?
It's closer to about 144 if you include the preliminary plans and working drawings.
Did you guys look at cost of replacements?
Yeah, usually DGS looks at that prior to doing this.
What was the replacement
they
cost?
estimated close to about $42 million, but I think a better estimate would be closer to about $28 million based on our other buildings that we built earlier.
So what is that per square foot cost?
That's about $300 a square foot that I'm guesstimating.
Wow.
So it'll be about double the price, but District 1 is in essence getting a new building. Basically, it's a retrofit of their existing building.
At some point you want to take a look at brand new costs, because your now life cycle of a brand new building is completely different than remodeling an old existing building.
I mean, my preference basically is new buildings. But in this case here, due to the state of the economy, this is probably the best choice. Basically, they gutted out that building, in essence, make it fairly brand new in the interior.
$300 a square foot is a lot of money.
Oh, it is.
It really went up when we added the foosball table to the project. If there are no other questions, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Opposed, one. Note, please. Commissioner Assimi? Abstentions? And that is approved. Item 72. Mitch?
Well, and Commissioners, if we could, before we leave that item, one of the things I want to point out is that, and this was discussed at the last Commission meeting also, when the Department brought forward its facilities plan, really they're just dealing with fire, life, and safety issues. And perhaps rather than waiting a whole other year till we see the facility plan, we should perhaps work with them on what a plan might be to address some of the greatest needs that they have for their office buildings, and not have to deal with some of the high cost issues prior to getting their plan done. So maybe we need to work with them on the front end.
Mitch, do that.
Great
yes,
point.
Stephen Maller would be happy to do that.
Great points. Obviously, fire and safety issues are very important, and we have to address all those issues. We just want to be mindful and have these items addressed up front before we get here, because at some point it may cost less to build a brand new building than continue to remodel an existing building.
You're quite correct, Commissioner. As the facilities plan was brought to you at the last meeting, what I pointed out is we have lots of buildings that are 60, 70 years old, and instead of trying to refresh them and update them for all the code violations that exist there, it might be a better day to start examining if we shouldn't be building brand new buildings.
That would be good. I would recommend us taking a look, the department taking a look at all their built facilities and buildings, so we can address this from a more macro and global level, so we don't have to piecemeal these as these issues come up. Thank you.
Excellent. Commissioner Assimi, thank you. We're going to move on to item 72. Mitch?
Item 72 is a request for supplemental funds. This request is for $2.7 million to complete a shop project on Route 9 in Santa Clara County. They're attempting to accelerate construction to minimize the number of seasons over which they'll have a traffic impact. Staff recommends approval of this item. The department is here to answer questions should there be any.
Great. This is a huge safety issue, by the way, on Highway 9, if you're familiar. We're coming out of Saratoga Village up to Highway 35, and just a lot of work to do on the side of a mountain. I'm very familiar with this project. There's a motion by Commissioner Arp, second by Commissioner Assimi. Any further discussion? Commissioner Medaford.
I appreciate your comments on that, Mr. Chair, but I got to just tell you, that's a huge increase of $2.7 million from the original number. And I read the lessons learned here in the report and the reasons for the cost increase, but it would just be nice if in the future they'd try to figure this stuff out in advance.
Yes, and one of the things I've been talking to the department about is there are a number of lessons learned that are in some of these items, which is great. But what I've asked, and Rachel has provided me with some of the details. So how are these lessons being documented? It's great to say it in one item, but how are we doing something to memorialize the procedures so that we have lots of stuff in the pipeline already, lots of stuff we're working on. We can't change those, but in the future we don't deal with the same issues. And this is something that we saw a couple of years ago. There was a lot of structures issues in, I think it was District 1 or District 2. The department dealt with those, and we haven't been seeing that same number of issues there.
Thank you, Commissioner Medaford. If there are no other, yes, Commissioner Inman.
I just, we have such precious few dollars, and when I read part of this delay was a dusty-footed rat nest delayed the construction and pushed us all to another season. I mean, at some we have to find maybe a little different solution there for mitigation.
Yes, the dusty-footed rat was last seen leaving with the Delta smelt.
Delta smelt is good on pizza, I hear.
Okay, we're deteriorating, and we're going to see if we have the votes. There was a motion in a second? Yes, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? We have one no. Thank you. Commissioner Taglioni, thank you for speaking up on that. Abstentions? And that passes. Thank you. Item 73, please.
Item 73 is a request for supplemental funds. This is a request to award a shop project on Route 280 in San Francisco. The department has received 5 bids, but is requesting $3.822 million in order to be able to award to the low bidder. The differences are related to some of the bridge work, lighting, mobilization, and traffic control. Department's available to answer questions on this item should there be any. Staff recommends approval.
Staff recommendation is approval. Is there a motion? There may not be.
I would, Mr. Chair, I don't know why this just couldn't get re-advertised, put back out to bid.
I mean, yes, that is a possibility to re-advertise it. In the case of this project, after we analyzed the bids, they were all reasonably within the same amount. And what happened was we underestimated the cost of some of the removal work. We took, it's not removal work we have done before, this type of removal that they're doing in this trafficked area. So they took what we do is look at previous bids, and they took a previous bid and doubled it, thinking that it was going to cover what it would cost. In reality, it cost 5 times. So our group, which does estimates like this, the Structures Group, is looking into items like this, which are non-standard items that we deal with, and going forward with looking at estimating them differently in the future. But the bidding cluster that we got, if we went back out, it would be a similar bid to what we're getting here. So this was an error in our part as far as coming up with the estimate.
Rachel, thank you. Commissioner Alvarado?
Well, you know, we meeting after meeting, we sit up here and express our frustration, Rachel, and I'm not taking it out on you, believe me. But if you just look at this, 58.9, 48.6, 50.6, 23.2, and 32.3. Ridiculous. We went through this years ago. It's just, how can you miss this stuff? I mean, 23.2% on a pavement rehabilitation. Are we going to go back to the well, it was the cost of asphalt again? I thought we'd been through this already. This is embarrassing.
What I would say is
it's even more embarrassing that this camera's running over here, and we're approving overruns of 50%. This would not go anywhere in the private sector. And we're sitting here trying to be guardians of the public's money. And it's frustrating meeting after meeting to be faced with these kind of cost overruns, and yet nothing happens. I mean, I guess the people that we let go in the private sector for making these kind of mistakes come to work for the department. It's ridiculous. And you know, we're going to pass this. It's going to go through because you can't stop a project in mid, or, you know, now you don't even want to re-advertise this one. It's very, very frustrating.
Point taken.
Chair Gardino, may I address this project in general?
Please. We're going to need you to keep it brief, but yes, please.
I'll keep it brief. I appreciate the time, Chair Gardino and Commissioners. I'm Dan McEllam, the Chief Deputy District Director here in District 4. On this particular job, I also have with me Mike Keever, who's the Chief Structures Design for the state. So Mike and I have looked at this particular job. This is an important job on 280-101 in San Francisco. It's actually 10 structures on that distribution. You know, as you take 101 north and you take 280 to the Giants Stadium, that distribution structure has rail that is not meeting safety standards and needs to be replaced. Through the bidding process, we've learned some very serious lessons, and as Commissioner Alvarado echoed, in the private sector, what we need to do is we need to partner more with industry on these type of unique jobs. And so Mike, for the statewide level, has his estimators for bridge rail, truly using this as a model as we move forward, because this had some very difficult complexity for the contractors. And we did have 5 bids, and we feel that they're very solid bids for what we've got for 4.5 miles of bridge rail, which includes some strengthening of the deck. This job was unique in that we saw cut the rail instead of demoed the overhang of the bridge, mainly because in Burnell Heights, in that area, these are all neighborhoods around this distribution structure, so that added a complexity that the bidders echoed in their dollar amounts. And then overall, we do believe that it's best to proceed with the recommendation as it is, and we will take this at a higher level for state estimating on these types of jobs, and we can go into more detail if you would like.
Commissioner Tablioni, you had a comment?
Well, I don't think I want to say too much because then I get Italian dander up, but it it seems to me that over the years, and I've been on here for a couple of years, and it's the same thing, day in and day out. Then they say that they're going to take a look at it and see what they can do, and maybe they can do this, and maybe they can do that. But nothing happens. I haven't seen any place along the line where they come back and say that, yes, we made the mistake. I've never heard that. And I don't quite understand it. In the private life, somebody need a lot of money, and it looks to me like with the shortage of money that we've got to take a hard look at all these extras that we got coming up, and they're ridiculous. And I just, you got a lot of smart engineers out there and people out there that know what they're doing, but something happens, something breaks down someplace, and it's getting to the point now where you might just as well say, well, whatever the contractor wants, he's going to get, and some of them, I think, feel that way anymore. Thank you.
There is no motion yet on this item. Is there a motion in any way on this item? Commissioner
I'll move option C on the staff report.
Option C is deny this request and direct the department to reject all bids and re-advertise the project. The department will perform an analysis and has determined that it is unlikely the lower bids would be received.
There is a motion. Let's see if there's a second first. There's a second by Commissioner Tablioni. Director Doherty.
Well, I want to make a couple of generic comments. I certainly agree with some of the comments that were made about some of these projects. I'm not happy with some of the estimates that were in here. But some of the other projects, the department did and staff did exactly what I wanted them to do and address the cost estimate before we go out to construction. So several of these are coming back to you to address correcting the cost estimate before we go out to construction. Now, specific to the project that you just made a motion on, you certainly, as the Commission, have that opportunity to approve any of those options. We got 5 bidders. Okay, they're not all wrong. So we can re-advertise this project, likely get the same estimate, and what we will have done is ripped open their envelopes and shown the world their bids. Contractors don't like that. We missed this estimate, and we had some issues that came up, and there are some excuses that we need to go back and correct. But I would suggest that ripping open all the envelopes and ruining everybody's day and divulging everybody's prices, knowing that we had 5 bidders. If we had 1 or 2 bidders, I think there'd be a different scenario. But with 5 bidders, I don't know that much is going to change when we go back. And contractors really don't like when you divulge what their secrets were for this job. We definitely have some lessons learned on each of these. this does still represent a small percentage of projects that we award every year. We are awarding and advertising over 600 projects every year. And we do have to deal with some mistakes, and I think that's the ones we have to come back to you and lessons learned. And I think that I disagree with the comment that nothing changes. I think that our estimating practices are evolving constantly. And I think we brought in our professionals to come in and represent what we do on a continual basis to update some of the estimates. Some of these are inexcusable, and I agree with that. But and we'll continue to work on that. But my comment on this one specifically is there are 5 bidders. They're not all wrong. This may be what that project costs. Our mistake was we didn't estimate it properly before we brought it to you.
Commissioner Art?
I defer to Commissioner Alvarado first, and then I'll follow.
Thank you. Commissioner Alvarado?
Well, and no offense, I'm not going to support the motion to rebid it. But, Malcolm, you can't miss it by 50%. Now, what's going to happen here? I mean, is anybody, you're going to sit the guy in a corner? What are we going to do? How do we keep, if you miss one, if you miss 100 by 5 or 10%, you're okay. But consistently in this district, it's 40, 30, 50%. Something's going on here that has to be addressed.
Well, I have to look at this individual instance, but I would not characterize this district as a broken process for estimating projects. I have all the statistics by district, and I think we've presented them before, and I'm more than happy to present them again.
Well, then why do we keep getting these over 20% misses?
There are several of these in here that are good examples of...
Why do we miss by over 20%?
That is not the majority of the cases of us advertising and opening up our bids. That's not the majority. That's a very small minority. And when it happens, I'm not happy about it. Are there good excuses? Sometimes. Are there not good excuses? Absolutely.
Well, but these are the ones that people talk about. So we've got to do something about the things that people talk about. And it's been going on for years. And I'm sorry, Jim, I'm not going to support the motion, but we've got to, at some point, and I think the last time we got this far deep into it, we finally said, look, you know what, we're going to pull one of these and we're going to knock it out. And I think we're almost to the point where we're going to pick one of these and just let it die. And then you go out and explain to the folks what happened.
Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to withdraw the motion if somebody else wants to make a motion to support the staff recommendation, because I won't be voting for it. I'd be happy to withdraw the motion. I believe it was seconded by Commissioner Taglioni.
It was. Okay, the maker and the seconder of the motion are withdrawing the motion. We do have a light on, and Commissioner Art?
I'll go ahead and make that motion. I think in this particular instance, I'm in agreement that rebidding it probably would not really be a solution. I'm also equally concerned about just we do go through this a lot, and my son is a mechanical engineer for a company that makes huge mining equipment, and he was talking last week. They had a R&D project that went from $5 million to $30 million, and everybody involved in that project is gone. And the president who was over it has been demoted and will probably be leaving. So, I'm not suggesting that you just start taking an axe, but somewhere, lessons learned have to have an edge to them, or else people really don't learn stuff.
Thank you, Commissioner Art. I want to see quickly if we have a motion on the staff recommendation, because we can always continue discussion.
I made that motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Arp. You did, and forgive me. Is there a second? There's a second by Commissioner Assemi. Commissioner Inman, you had a comment that you would like to make?
Well, I just wondered in this process, and I do want to commend you for coming in before you award the contract, so I don't want to be too harsh in that, because we have made some progress where we at least are talking about it. But in my private sector job, we have to rescope projects sometimes, and while we thought we were getting an intermediate car, maybe we're going to be driving around in an economy, we'll still get around, but, you know, and so I don't know if we go through that process enough to say, okay, to accomplish the goal, and if it's a safety issue, what are the minimum things we can do to get us there in the most cost-effective way? So I don't feel necessarily that we've been given enough information to understand if you do change the scope of a project, you know, sometimes pull it back. And then lastly, we have limited resources on all these lists. Every program we have, there are more projects than get selected. And so if we put a project up there thinking that it's $2 million and then it grows to $5 million, maybe it wouldn't have been chosen in the first place against some others. So it's almost like, I think what we're going to have to ask of you all is help us understand what we're going to take off a list or what we aren't going to be doing, because we all have very, very limited resources that aren't meeting all of our collective goals. So I think the frustration that you're hearing wants to include the appreciation that at least we are having the discussion before the contract's awarded.
Thank you, Commissioner Inman. Commissioner Alvarado?
I know after we take a vote, I'd like to speak.
Thank you, sir. We do have a motion and a second. If there are no further comments from commissioners, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So please note there are 3 opposed. Vice Chair Dunn, Commissioner Taglioni, Commissioner Madaffer. Abstentions? None? I believe we have 9 commissioners still on the dais, so that is a 6-3 vote. Commissioner Alvarado?
Could we take 74, 75, and 76 as a group to ease our frustration?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Staff recommends approval.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Okay, so there's a motion for 74, 75, and 76. And there is a second as well. Thank you, Commissioner Alvarado. Discussion on these 3. Do we need to?
Do I need
we
to give
have
a
motion.
reason?
Why don't we
Okay.
see how it goes? Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? See, you didn't need a reason. You had us at hello. Okay. We're moving on to 77. Stephen Mullen.
Yes, Commissioners. 77 and 78 are Prop 1B bond allocation. Staff recommends approval.
Okay. Commissioner Arp made the motion. Commissioner Fromer made the second. Is there discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? And again, that was both 77 and 78. 79, Juan Guzman.
Commissioners, item 79 is an action item. It's an allocation for a multi-funded project, Intercity Rail. Staff recommends your approval.
That was a motion by Commissioner Taglioni, a second by Commissioner Assimi. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? That passes. Item 81.
Item 80 is an allocation for a transit project in Santa Cruz County. Staff recommends your approval.
Motion by Commissioner Taglioni, a second by Vice Chair Dunn. Seeing no comments, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Passes. 81, please.
81 is also an action item. It's an allocation of Prop 116 funds for a transit project in Orange County. Staff recommends your approval.
There's a motion by Vice Chair Dunn. There's a second by Commissioner Inman. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Item 82, Juan.
I can do it again.
Oh,
if you want.
forgive me. Item 83. Oh, wow.
Motion to rescind?
Oh, and I love you guys too. Item 83.
Some other Caltrans projects that need the money.
Stormwater.
Used it all up.
Stormwater. Item 83.
Sorry, Carl. The shop took all that money.
Commissioners, sorry about that. Commissioners, item 83 is an action item. It's an allocation for 3 other TCRP projects in LA County. Staff recommends your approval.
Move it.
Move.
Motion by Commissioner Fromer, second by Commissioner Burke. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Keep us going.
Commissioners, items 84 through 87 are time extensions on this month's agenda. But before we get started on those items, I believe there's a speaker before item 84 related to time extensions for contract award.
Why, thank you. Will Ritter, welcome from LA Metro. You have up to 2 minutes if you need it. For every second afterwards, that's one more no vote.
Thank you, Chair Gardino and members of the Commission. Per direction of your staff, I just briefly wanted to recognize that due to unique circumstances regarding an action that the Commission took in June on a contract extension or contract award extension request for a project in LA County, we've been working in partnership with Caltrans as well as your staff to bring back a reconsideration of this action. We were hoping that we'd be back this month, but relative to the time, we are investing to make sure that we have all the materials put together appropriately for the book item. This will be coming back to you in October. And while I'll just hold on the details of the specific project in the situation, I just want to express my sincere appreciation to your staff as well as to Caltrans to provide us with this opportunity, and I look forward to talking with you more in October.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Ritter?
Move staff recommendation.
There's I don't think we need to. Yeah. Juan, would you like to weigh in? But I love the exuberance.
Okay, just to be clear, that was information I
Right.
had the speaker, it's really
Yeah.
related to these items, but it's not an action item. It's not part of one of the items on the agenda.
Great. Juan, take us home.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Commissioners, as I mentioned, the next items are time extensions. I'll have to take them separately because there's been some changes. Item 84 is a request for 3 months time extension for contract award, and staff recommends your approval on that item.
There's a motion by Commissioner Madaffer, second by Commissioner Taglioni. Questions? Seeing none? Thank you, Commissioner. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? That passes.
Commissioners, item 85 is a request by the department to extend the time to award contracts for 4 projects, and there's a change from your spreadsheet, the spreadsheet provided to you, on project number 1. Staff is going to recommend 6 months based on some late coming information where now not just the low bid but the second bid has been disqualified, and the department may be needing to go and rebid this project. So for that purpose, staff recommends 6 months for that project, 4 months for project number 2, 6 months for project 3, and 12 months for project 4.
So moved.
There is a motion and a second. It sounded, I didn't write, was it down here?
Yeah, project number 1 at 6 months. Everything else per the staff report.
Okay. Commissioner Madaffer made the motion. I just didn't catch who made this. Commissioner Assemi. Thank you. Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions?
Commissioners, item 86 has been withdrawn. So item 87, staff recommends the 20 months requested.
That was by Commissioner Taglioni, second by Commissioner Assemi. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposition? Abstentions? That passes. We have time for other matters and public comment. Are there any public comment? Great. We had the room till 5:30. It's 5:20. Go crazy with those additional 10 minutes. I want to thank our staff again for their great work. We are adjourned.